Yeah, sorry.
Release notes to me are like they're a bit like a necessary evil. And often I'm not the one that writes them, I'm the one that reviews them from the engineers who they actually write the notes to start with. So this presentation is a lot about writing them and also looking at ones that are already written and how to improve them. Okay, I just need to make this go away. Okay, so just quickly a bit about me. As you would have read in the brief, I've been around doing tech writing since 1987, which is a very scarily long time. More recently, I'm getting into the UI writing and content design things, the words on the interfaces of products, trying to avoid the need for people to refer to documentation in the first place. But first and foremost, love is tech writing. I used to run a course at the old Swinburne Graduate Diploma of Technical Communication course back in the early 2000s. Now time has been flying, which is where I met Swapnil and also Felicity and maybe others. I can't see everyone's name. Been a president of the ASTC Victoria, and then when that all merged into the Australian group, I was the vice president there for a couple of years as well. But basically I'm a word nerd. Probably like most of you, I pick up typos in menus at restaurants, really hate reading complicated things and wish people would get it right. So, yep, clear, concise, correct, consistent, complete, the 5 C's, and that comes all tech writing, of course, including release notes. A bit about PaperCut, where I work for, just to let you know, it's an Aussie company. They do this thing called print management software. So if you have a printer at work and you go up with your little tag and you tag the little, what do you call it, the little reader on the printer and your printing comes out, we do all the software behind that. There's about and lots of other stuff to improve security. We've got 250 staff. We've got a new product called PaperCut Grow. So when people do start their printing journey with us, they can actually buy trees to help offset the paper usage that they use for their printing, which is fabulous. There's some figures there, big numbers. We're a Google partner. It's a pretty cool place to work. So today, just going to prove that we know that people actually do read release notes. I have been in situations where people go, oh, people don't read release notes anyway, who cares? Well, actually, they do. When you should and shouldn't write them, that there's 3 types, but we're only going to cover writing for 2 of those. So what's a release note and why write them? I tried to write a short sentence about what a release note is, and basically a release note is a short sentence. I say in essence, a release note's a short sentence that clearly describes a new feature, enhancement or fix. There are release notes around that aren't short sentences that do go into like mini descriptions with screenshots. So that is a way of writing release notes, but we're going to stick to the short, sharp sentence, getting to the point type release notes today, which is better for our users in the main, I think, on the spot, because they just need to know stuff quickly, succinctly, and move on. This is what our release notes look like at PaperCut, and I'll be using all my examples are PaperCut examples, so they're very software engineering related. Hopefully they won't be too complicated. I don't think they will. Any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Swapnil can ask, or I'll just check in every now and again to see how we're all going. Right, yes, so people do refer to and read release notes. Shock horror. At PaperCut, at least this many groups of people refer to our release notes, our customers, obviously, our frontline support, tech services, sales, marketing, developer relationships, and customer service. So places you might not think of do refer to release notes. This is firsthand from my place of work. That is not my cat. Why do they read them though? Like, what's the point? Because customers' questions often have questions about things they've been chasing up. Have you fixed this bug I've reported? So that's all covered off in the release notes. Support can quickly say, yes, that bug's listed in that release note. It's been fixed. Support use the JIRA IDs, or support people use different bug tracking systems, whatever, to quickly find tickets so that they can learn more information about issues in case they get called about that issue. They'll also just send the release notes link to the customers to say, yes, something's been fixed. Here's the page. Go check out our release notes. We don't sell product direct from PaperCut. We use resellers and partners, and they often refer to our release notes to find out what's new and to see if they've had any issues that they've been chasing up, whether they've been fixed or not. And of course, customers read our release notes to find out what's changed, to see if the problems they've been having have been fixed, and to find out what's new. For them, in case there's something they really should update to this release for or not. And Tim in support at PaperCut says that yes, customers do read them, because anytime the release notes come out and there's something missing or there's a typo, they'll almost always get picked up in a few hours, because the release notes are the first thing a lot of people go to at release time. And everyone knows people like to pick up typos. So we do get proof from our customers when they complain about typos, which hopefully there won't be any. Very quickly, on searching at our site, last couple of months, we had 407 searches for release history. So yes, they do get searched for. We have 3 major products, and here we can see there's roughly 7,000 hits for the release history in general, 1,600 for our product called Print Deploy, and 696 for our mobility print products. So yes, we can see that we are getting hits on the page. Support links to the release notes in their ticket. So here we have a ticket, and it's just saying, referring to our release notes, just proof that they actually do use them. So all of these reasons are why people read release notes, and proof that they are getting read. So we've got to make sure we give them, our readers, something that's useful and understandable. So when would you write them? When the work done is for an enhancement or for a fix to your product. And it's for something that's relating to something that the customer can see or experience in your product. So that's really key. If it's something done in the back end, no customer's ever going to see it. We don't need to do a release note for that. I've got down the bottom here, product managers and leads or other people involved in product development, they write release notes for new features, or even our go-to-market team do. So that's more a different type of release note writing, and we're not going to do the new feature type release notes today. Now, we don't write release notes for work that the customers can't see or experience. Not necessary. If you have a big release, a big fix, for example, there's a big ticket in JIRA and it's got lots of sub-tickets, just keep the release note to the major ticket. We don't need to do lots of little mini release notes that can just all be tied into the one big overarching release note. Also, if there's been changes raised internally in JIRA or whatever, unless they refer to something that the customer can see or experience, no need to do those little back end. Or like maybe they've updated a database or something else internally. Customers don't need to know. We don't need to tell them that kind of thing. And a little, I don't know, way to remember maybe that it is all about our customers, because I've mentioned here already a few times what the customer can see and experience. It's all about our customers, of course, or our users. So please remember our Bells, Lukes and Marys. Try to find some names to fit in there. We need to make sure that everything they read is just focused all about them. and a couple of things that people might think when they have to write release notes. I know I might have thought one or two of these things in my earlier days. Hate's a very strong word, as we all tell our kids, but I think some engineers really do hate writing release notes. Is that what I'm supposed to say? Not really sure. Oh, I haven't got any time left. Oh, they'll have to do. Oh, look, I know what I mean. They can work it out. Yeah, none of that hopefully will be the case by the time we're finished. So before I continue, any questions? Great.
There's a question there from Shauna. Is there any example of using release notes to communicate changes going into beta testing?
Not in this presentation. Changes going into beta testing. Need to know a little bit more about the context, but if you, good question. You could have a page to explain what the changes are going into beta. I don't know if it's an official beta release and you want to let everybody know what's happened. You could have release notes for that. I haven't though. Can't see why you couldn't. Anyone else care to comment on that in the comments? That would be great. Okay, so for enhancements, we've got a little formula here. 1, 2, 3 equals our release note. So there's a question we should always ask ourselves. What did this is from an engineer's point of view, because mostly our engineers write our release notes. But if you have to write it, it's like, think of this from your point of view. What did I add, remove, improve, or update that the customer is going to see or experience? So an example of an answer to that question might be something like the ability to see a default printer. We're all about printing. Now people can set a default printer. Okay, great. A standard sentence here. Added, removed, improved, updated, whatever it was that happened. Your answer for number 2. So we use we're going to say we added in this case. And we're going to take the answer and we've got added the ability to set a default printer. That is our release note. So keep the question in mind and that will lead you to what your complete release note will be. Here's some examples. You can see here we've got added, removed, improved. There's a whole bunch of enhancements here. And it's consistent. We use these consistent words at the front, so it's easy to structure our sentences consistently afterwards. Here, however, somehow or other, someone slipped in and fixed an issue. This obviously does not belong in enhancements. It shouldn't be there. It's not an enhancement. Here, the warning notification for exceeding the licensed users limits is now updated in real time. So this is an update. This is an enhancement. It just needs to be reworded to put one of those words in front, like updated or added. Change the page here. And this is actually live and this went out and mistakes happen, I suppose, at work. Oh, yes. So if we do an example, this is a real life engineer written release note, translatable print button on the deposit receipt page. Okay, all right, well, I've got some information there, but I'm not really quite sure what they're trying to tell me. So what did they add, remove, improve, or update? Like, what does that mean? So what it turns out is they actually made the print button on the deposit page translatable. It's like, oh, okay, translatable print button on the deposit page. It makes sense now. They made that button translatable. So we take the ad, the question, added the ability to translate the print button on the deposit receipt page. So you take the question, add the answer, there's your release note. Another one, email server authentication for MS Cloud email is now available. Yeah, but we're trying to be consistent with our release notes now, and we're using the added or the updated or whatever. The question here is, oh, sorry, I've got to. What did I add, remove? Well, they've added the email server authentication for MS Cloud. Now that you might think that already starts with added. That looks like the release note is complete already, and it can be, and you could use that. But because this is pertaining to MS Cloud email specifically, for example, is not Gmail, I'd actually consider putting that information up front for the MS Cloud email, because then if I am a Gmail business, I don't even need to read the rest of the release note. I can just move on. So give them the relevant information first for them. Last one, excuse me for reading out everything, word for word, but it's kind of a bit hard in this context not to. This is a bit longer, and we don't even really have to understand it. We just know that this is the information that was written. Configure to connect to access token expiry time to dynamically match received web tokens versus, like, oh my goodness, what does that mean? What's the question? What was added, removed, improved, updated? Sometimes you just read a release note and you just go, no, I need more explanation. So basically they've updated some policy authentication timeframes. When someone logs into a printer, they need to be authenticated. The time they had to get authenticated was too short. They made it dynamic, so it wouldn't matter what time it was. You learn the story from the engineers, you find out the details. And really all it was like one line in the end. Universal print, they didn't even say what it was for, now caters for authentication expiry policies of any duration. This release note probably could have been written in lots of ways. But you can see, though, that by asking the question of the engineer or of yourself, that you need to simplify things, just cut it down to the bare bones and not add any fluff to it, or anything that's not helping the user to understand it any better. That's enhancements. How are we going for time? 12:30. Any questions?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions and follow-ups on that previous question from Shauna. So like Shauna said about beta testing, I think she just sort of clarified that we're inviting customers to test changes we are making to the product. So we're debating the appropriate way to summarize the changes the customers testing the beta version will see. So it's almost like there's like a small sample set of customers that the release is going out to first. So do we then document the release notes just for them, like just have some sort of communication going out to them?
I think that's a great idea personally. Also, do you have test plans that you're sending out, in which case you can identify the changes in the test plan that you send out along? But I think, what harm can it do? Unless you don't want them to know and you're trying to get them to discover, but I think probably that's not the case. So yeah, do it. Other questions?
Yeah, just I think Sangeeta said you could send out release notes to cover the new features or a quick readout for beta testers to help them understand. And it's also a matter of timing when the release notes are ready and how they're labeled. Like if they're ready to be sent out, I'm assuming they can go out. There's a question from Chitra, which she asked, who should own release notes delivery? Is that something you're going to cover later on? I might leave it at the end, but who should own release notes delivery? In all of my previous jobs, it was always owned by the tech docs team, but in my current company, the product managers insist it's their delivery. Only issue is they don't seem to be updated on what features are really going into the release.
Yeah, okay. Let's go have a drink and have a chat. In previous roles, I've been in the tech writers have been responsible for them for sure. And now it's the product managers who are in PaperCut that are responsible for them. So What we have, though, is a great relationship with the product managers, and we have a working group that will review that. The managers will gather the release notes, and they'll have they actually put them all in a Google Doc now, and we do a review of them. Previously, we used to all sit in a meeting room and discuss them and hash out the details, but yeah, so product managers where I am. It's kind of a joint thing though, isn't it, really? I think I would hate not to be referred to review them. I would be cross if that happens. So if they're not including you, then I don't know, see if that can make that happen. I mean, product managers aren't writers, so.
Yeah, thank you. There's a couple of other questions on bug IDs. Do you want to get to them at the end of the presentation?
No, let's do now.
Yeah, okay. So Jared's asking about something, I think in one of your slides, it says one of the challenges he's facing at his company is including bug IDs to bugs that are not accessible by customers. Is there still value having the bug ID in the release note, linked or unlinked, for support staff and other internal folks?
Yep, our support staff fought tooth and nail about 2 years ago to get them added. There was arguments either way, but they everyone in the majority wanted them added, and they got added, and it just makes tracking so much easier for the support people. I mean, just getting straight to that ticket, and then within that ticket finding out information or finding out where to go for more information. So I think majority, I would expect people not to be surprised. Well, that's not, we shouldn't talk in the negative, should we? Having a ticket number on the end isn't hurting anybody. And if it doesn't click to the general public to take them somewhere, that they know release notes are release notes, usually this number's attached to a release note for whatever reason. So I would have them for sure. And having done some research on other release notes from other companies, they have them. So yeah. Yeah,
I think that's just probably a general consensus as well. A few other sort of folks have said that, yeah, they've added bug IDs just more for internal tracking, just in case of, if support really need to quickly get to that issue to find out what really happened, so they can track it back. Yep.
Totally agree.
Cool. Lizzie's just said something interesting. She said, agree with including internal bug references. She just notes that reference is internal and make it not so prominent, maybe a lighter color or a smaller font or something. I think on your slides, Sonja, that was the case too. I think it was slightly different. Yeah, a tiny
numbers at the end. Yeah, and changed fonts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cool.
As long as it's readable. Okay, we'll move on because 12:34. So with our enhancements, we had that little 1, 2, 3 equals your release notes. So with fixes, guess what? And this is the biggest issue that I find in release notes written by engineers. We don't need to tell the customers how something is fixed. Customers just don't need to know, nor do they, in most cases, probably care. All our customers, even though our engineers, I say, are complete legends and do amazing work and probably would like the world to know about it, our customers just want to know how it affects them. No one really wants to know how they fixed it. People just want to know what's been fixed. What's in it for me? So we have another little equation here, which is weird, using numbers for writing because I'm not normally a numbers person, but nonetheless. This time our question is, for fixes, what was the problem the customer saw or experienced? There's that customer saw or experienced thing again. What was the problem? So an example of that would be, well, the settings kept reverting to default on the admin screen. We're not going to just take the detail aside for now, but basically the settings kept reverting to the default on the admin screen. This is the problem that the customer was seeing. So we complete the sentence. This time our sentence starts with fixed an issue. Now, I know this could potentially get repetitive down a long list of release notes, but we're going to keep consistent and we're going to fix an issue. Now, this issue is caused, something stopped, something it's created, something it's this, whatever that word happens to be. And then we create our release note by taking fixed an issue at the start. In this case, the issue caused the settings to revert to default on the admin screen. This is our release note. We fixed an issue that caused the settings to revert to default on the admin screen. I don't care how it was fixed. The customer doesn't care how it was fixed, but it's fixed. Yay, great, happy customer. So here's some examples of some fixes that we had in PaperCut at some point, and you can see we've got fixed an issue, fixed an issue, fixed an issue. That's great. Mostly this is looking relatively decent. Couple of things though. Here we have fixed an error that caused issues with running. Well, yep, it's going to be an error. We don't need to say that. It's just words for the sake of words. We can just say fixed an issue, and we'll probably reword that to something like that. I don't know. It would be reworded. Also, there we've got fixed an issue caused by not removing the previous JRE. Care, no, don't need to use those words. Fixed an issue, and then what caused it. Down here, we've got integrated scanning, fixed an issue with the validation process. No, don't care. We just want to know how it affected the customer, not what the reason was. Okay, so try to find some relatively easy examples. So before, this was a release note. Previously, the line numbers in the device script editor were misaligned with the text and the code. This issue has been resolved and the line numbers now align as expected. It's kind of friendly and it sounds really nice. Pretty long, a bit wordy. So go back to our question. What was the problem that the customer saw or experienced? The line numbers in the device script were misaligned with the text code. That's it. That's what they saw. So we fixed an issue that caused the line numbers in the device script to be misaligned with the text code. Pretty short. We don't need to say it's been resolved and stuff like that. We've just got a nice simple sentence. A little bit techie, not too techie. Fixed an issue where duplicate firewall rules were created during a server installation or upgrade for the print deploy component. That's one of our things. Now it's got fixed an issue at the start. It's looking pretty good. Is there anything else we need to know? We've got where duplicate firewall rules were created. Okay, they were created, but what did the customer see? How did they know that this was happening? Like, it kind of tells me something, but I don't have. How do I know this was affected me? What was the problem the customer saw or experienced? What happened was the user was seeing the same firewall listed twice in this console that Microsoft has given a ridiculously long name. So the user saw the same firewall listed twice in that console. So we fixed an issue that created duplicate firewall entries in that console. We've said here when a server was installed or print deploy was upgraded, because this is specifics to this release, to this problem. So if it was under other circumstances, then it doesn't apply to the user. So they can ignore, well, they know it doesn't apply to them. But the main difference here is, yeah, the before version says, yep, duplicate firewalls were created, but how was I to know that? I would know that because there were duplicate firewall entries in that console, which is what the customer sees. So we need to put it from the customer's point of view. Last one. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we fixed an issue, again, looking good, but then it starts to get, it just does my head in when I start to see all these things that caused the client to fail after an installation because of a missing client file when deployed via, okay, all right, I really have to think hard to work that out. What was the problem that the customer saw or experienced? Well, the client didn't work after it was installed. But don't worry about what a client is, but the client didn't work after it was installed. No printers were installed and the customers reported they noticed a missing file. So we fixed an issue. Now I've highlighted this in orange because it's specific. The clients that were installed with JMF, with a plist file, readers can get this far and go, well, I don't install my clients this way. And they can just, don't even have to read the rest. They can move straight on. But in this case, it's specific. We have to include it. Makes it a bit wordier, but it's important. We fixed an issue that caused clients that were installed this way to fail. And it was because that file was missing. Because the customers had reported missing that client.conf.toml file. So we need to include that in the release notes so they can go, oh yeah, my file was missing. That's mine, it's fixed. Awesome. I don't even want to start looking at that. That's just horrible. What was the problem that they saw? Okay, a server crashed because the scans failed folder got too big. Okay, that's what that means. That's like, okay, why didn't you just say that? So we changed the release note. Now the release note is still a bit long in this case, but still the essence of it is we fixed an issue that caused the server to crash because it stored too many failed scan jobs. And that, I think, is a little easier to understand than reading all that stuff at the top and trying to work it out. We did have to add, in this case, we have configuration keys that people have to set, and it's part of our policy that we add them in release notes if there's new ones. So that adds it, makes it look a bit more complicated, but even when they just scan it, it's easier to understand than what that ever says at the top. Right, okay, so that's fixing release notes for fixes. Have we got any questions, Swapnil?
Yeah, just a couple of them. So Janet's asked, why do we not describe new behavior rather than fixed an issue that caused old behavior? Like just turning it around, I guess.
Because it's in the, well, okay. I'm thinking it's recognition, it's understanding. The old behavior is what they were seeing, is what the customers were seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And they will recognize that. You could say, you could put the new behavior first, I suppose, and then how that addressed the old way. But if it's something new, how will they know, how will they relate to how that was for them before? I don't know, that's how I think of it.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps. Sorry, Janet.
There's another question from Jared. So he said in his release notes, at the start of every sentence where you had fixed an issue, it found, like, with a lot of bugs in a release, it just becomes that the words quickly become invisible. If the bugs are in a common bug fixes section of the release notes, what other sentence patterns could you use to remove the potential redundancy? So not having everything start with fixed an issue.
Well, I don't like changing sentences around for the sake of changing sentences around so they're not all the same. I prefer the boringness and repetition of fixed an issue. After a while, the reader will probably just get so used to it, they'll just go straight into reading the next part of the sentence anyway. Yeah. Their eyes will skip over it. If you keep it the same way, your release notes are going to be written in the same sentence structure, and it's going to be easier to read and understand. I don't think that making different, saying the same thing, different sentence structures to suit, it's keep it simple, boring as it is. I mean, it's like a table of contents, how to set up this, how to set up that, it's just, you choose a style and you stick with it. I'm not saying that you have to. If you don't like it, you can change it, but it makes it easier, especially when you're trying to get engineers to write as well, the release notes, if you're not the one that's writing them. It just gives them a structure to stick to, and it's not the worst thing in the world that the readers are ever going to read. If it's a bit boring and consistent at the start, I'd just leave it.
Yeah, Jared's just posted a couple of links for his examples, like in terms of his release notes. But yeah, yeah, feel free to. Yeah, those are the only two questions. So yeah. No.
Okay, we're flying through. Okay, so not much more to go now. Just a couple of tips. Write in the past tense because the problem happened in the past. It's now fixed, which is the opposite, I suppose, to what Jared was just saying. Or whoever it was that said something about, yeah, that previous question. Explain only the symptoms you resolved. Don't explain how you fixed it. Customers don't care how it was fixed, like we've already said. If necessary, you can add a benefit to the release note. For example, here we have added support for this custom type of certificate, but there's nothing wrong with saying what that benefit, why that was done. Probably good to add that to the end. And just really try and keep information relevant. Never leave a reader asking questions like, so, or what the, or I don't get what that means. Like there should be they should leave no questions. And if you do need to put more information, or there should be more information, you can reference to elsewhere in your documentation or on your site or wherever that information is. So I did a quick look around to see what other companies do. And this is talking about having the JIRA or the ticket number next to the release note. Atlassian, they don't even, I think they pull this straight out of JIRA. So they actually just use the ticket name, and they have the key and the configuring. For example, the configuring the issue detail view doc is not clear regarding some editing options. If we change that to how I was just talking earlier on, that would be, we would say fixed an issue. Oh, yeah. And then you alter that sentence structure. So if you're reading these, like burn up chart unavailable in reports, that, I mean, it's saying it's a resolved issue. So, but it's telling me what the problem was. It's not, it's not bad. It just makes me think a little bit harder to see if that's relevant for me or not. Nonetheless, they have their ticket numbers right there and there at the start even. So if Atlassian can do it, I think we can put little ones at the end of ours, and that shouldn't upset anybody. Also with the enhancements, this is where they haven't just gone for the quick single sentence. They actually spend a bit of time explaining things. Some enhancements actually had screenshots in them as well. So your company might have a style with enhancements where they do want to provide more information up front rather than linking off to some other area. Informatica, not sure who they are, but their release notes, same thing. They've got their ticket numbers at the front and it's the heading in the ticket, and that's it. It doesn't directly aim, they don't aim their sentences to the reader. It's just, this is what we did. This is the tickets we fixed. So yeah, just interesting to see, not my preferred way. HP, when I found this one down here, fixed USB print issue for OPP supported printers for Ubuntu. And I'm like, yep, well, that just really doesn't tell me much. Thanks, HP. However, Mac have resolved issues, and here fixed an issue so that Matter accessories with multiple endpoints are now reachable in the Home app. So if that's your world, that would be, I expect, pretty easy to understand. We say that, well, I say that caused, so fixed an issue that caused this, I don't know, I'll maybe slightly reword it, but nonetheless, this is a pretty good similar way to what we've talked about today. Also very hard to find resolved issues for Macs, funnily enough. I think they tend to just make sure there aren't any in the first place. Microsoft. We fixed an issue where shared workbots in XLS format may improperly merge changes. We fixed an issue where an AMS scan would cause the app to close on it. This is what we're talking about. They put "we" at the front. That's nice and friendly. Can take it or leave it, but nonetheless, Microsoft write release notes in a similar way to what I've talked about today. So in summary, you've got your equation for enhancements. Ask yourself this question and complete the sentence, and that will equal your release notes. And for fixes, ask yourself this question. Write the answer, and you've got your release note. Little templates. And that's it for me. Thank you. More questions?
Thanks, Sonja. So just on that previous fixed and issue thing, I think you said something similar, but Lizzie said when you have consistent terms like fix something are like advanced notifiers, so readers come to understand what they denote, and it helps them when reading the rest of the sentence. I've got a question here from Kirsty. Does anyone here translate release notes into other languages? So if there's anyone, Sonja, do you do it at PaperCut, like in terms of your release?
Not yet, but wow, Kirsty, you were on my mind because we're talking translations at work at the moment for documentation and stuff. So, but we don't yet. And I'd like to know actually if you've anything to say about release notes and translations.
Oh, well, I was just curious. It's not something I do either at this stage. And in a chat with another localization person, he actually made the comment that, you know, potentially translating the release notes was more important than translating documentation for users,
yeah.
because, you know, some users might actually read the release notes but may not get into your online help or your help or UA. So.
Good point.
That's been sitting in my head. So I was just wondering if anyone else does it.
I think it's a great thing to do. The only issue I see is that time frame, you know, like usually release notes are being finished right at the very end, and who's got time for translation? Obviously that should be factored in and part of the process, but I wonder if that's why some, you know, not many people do. But even if they were, you know, a day or 2 or 3 or 4 days, you know, after the release, it's still better to have them translated.
So Sangeeta said one of our previous companies did translate all of our guides and release notes. Sangeeta, if you want to come off mute, you can. Do you want to share any of your experiences with that? Like, were you involved with translating or the translation part of the release notes?
Hi, Sapnal. Yes, I was involved with it because we used to translate all our content into 8 different languages. So we had the whole agile system in place, and code lock was pretty hard on all the, you know, information that needed translation, especially when it came to screenshots, because people had to go in and look at the screenshots and also make, you know, translations in that area. So we also try to avoid using too many screens to avoid that headache, and try to crop everything down to you know, where the change actually applied. So that would save a lot of time. And yes, the release notes are also part of the translation, and we had to give enough time in order to get all of that done. And it was facilitated by a different company. So we just had to hand over all the files to them. They would do those translations, get back, and that's after that our release would go out for everybody together, you know, English and all the other languages. So
I'm curious to know how long the turnaround was for that translation for the release notes.
We used to kind of send all the documents together, and they used to come back in 2 weeks for the entire lot. So if it was just a release note, they would probably just come back within a day. It didn't take that long for them. Yeah.
That's great insight, Sangeeta. With your release notes, then, did you have to make any, you know, structural changes to keep it as simple as possible for translation purposes, or?
Well, the release notes are pretty straightforward, quite similar to what you had in one of your original screens today, where we had the list of enhancements and then the fixes. So they were pretty much a call out of lists. And we sometimes would have, like for a major release, we would also have the new features called out first. So there were like 3 sections to the release note, and that pattern would follow every release. So they didn't have to change the template or do anything along those lines, just change the release version date, and then probably just look at the list of items that were changing. So the rest of it remained the same in each release.
We also do new features at the top.
Yeah, so we have the new features at the top. So that would talk about just the major features. That would be a little more descriptive. Then you would have the list of enhancements followed by the fixes.
Same.
Yep.
That's pretty interesting. Jared's dropped in some thoughts around a particular style of writing release notes. If there's anyone who wants to sort of add to that, I think what he's wondering is if he dropped that fixed part format, part of that format, would that still add value or would it still be too wordy? So he's got a link there if you want to jump on, anyone. And at the same time, Felicity's got some thoughts on some playful release notes like Slack. So Slack have a very different way of writing release notes. Like it says something like, we've tinkered with the internal workings and polished some rough edges. So the app is now better than it was. So just curious to hear what others think on those sort of release notes.
I was just going to say regarding the Slack, and I was, before when I said the 5 points of clear, consistent, concise, complete, I was actually going to thinking we really need to start adding another one, a sixth one, which is conversational, because so much more of our writing these days is acceptable to be, even tech writing is more conversational. And if you've got an audience of, the audience, the kind of people that use Slack would be far more interested in a conversational tone release note, I'm sure, whereas these are more suited for sort of, more technically type people. But yeah, I'm going to have a look at the Slack ones. I can imagine that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a couple. Yeah, sorry to cut you off there. I think a couple of people have said the same thing. It depends on, what the product is and what sort of industry and what your style guide says. So it doesn't, if it doesn't fit within the company voice, or depending on who you're writing for, it just, yeah, you can't really write in that format, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a question about screenshots in release notes. Yes or no? If yes, when?
My answer is no. So no need to answer the when, but I would, that's just our style. Like we looked at, where was it, back here, where we had the enhancements for Atlassian. Atlassian does have some areas where they have screenshots. So if your style of release notes is to be a little more explanatory, then you can include screenshots. They have. Personally, we don't, but if that's the company style, then why not? Then again, though, it depends if you're going to do translation, I suppose. And will those screenshots be, how long will they be valid for? Like if someone goes back in 12 months' time to look at the release notes, and are they still valid? Is it all changed again? Might help sway the decision.
Yeah, just a couple more comments. I think, yeah, people have said keep screenshots for the documentation or online help. Kelly said we include screenshots in the release notes, so they find it helpful to make them more reader friendly and encourages customers to actually read them. So, and they're also making a summary video. So yeah, just another format.
Can I ask what audience? Can we ask? Is it Kelly? What audience do you have for your release notes? What are the type of people?
Hi, yeah, look, it's not a very technical audience. They are generally risk managers. Okay. So they want to know like what are the whiz bang new things that we're getting in this release. So that's what we're including now in the summary video.
Yeah, that video, so much to be said about having videos for things. If they want it and it's a format agrees, then that's great. Yeah, we have never discussed videos in release notes before at work. I've never heard of them before, but sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, I think my role kind of crosses into product management and marketing just a little bit in that way. I'm a sole writer.
Lots of different things to do. Lots of people to make happy.
Yeah, one of the other suggestions was linking release notes directly to the knowledge base for enhancements, which seems to work super well. So have all the maybe screenshots and everything in the knowledge base or online help, and link release notes directly to the documentation when it becomes available.
Yeah, we had a situation once where someone said, no, we're not putting links in release notes. It was beyond my control, and I never understood why, but we do now. So I definitely think that you should link off to further information.
Yeah.
Why make people search and work hard to find more stuff that's only going to help them? So yeah, it's good. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I was just saying, yeah, so they've got product managers making videos for new features, and then we added to release notes. Videos could be a timing issue, Lizzie says, as they can take a bit to create. So if the feature is complete and there is time before a release, could be a good idea to link them to existing videos.
Just thought of something else as well. We have a website, and all our new features and things are all explained there. And we have blogs and stuff as well. So for us, release notes probably isn't the place for a video. We would put that next level of information in other places where our customers would expect to find that on our website instead of the release notes.
Yeah, I think that's most of the questions covered. If anyone's got any other questions, feel free to unmute yourself, ask Sonja directly. We've got about another 10 minutes. So yeah, if anyone's got any specific questions around release notes. Yeah, I have a question myself, Sonja. Do you also do like a separate version of your release notes just in terms of styling and structure for your mobile apps? I'm assuming you might have mobile apps. So the release notes on a web page maybe sometimes get too wordy and there's a lot of information. Would you think about restructuring it or keeping it even more simpler for mobile apps? Like what can be accessed on a mobile device as opposed to a desktop or a web version?
All of our website is supposed to, is it reactive? What's the word, to your device that you're using? So we don't have a different style for mobile devices.
Okay.
If the design, I'm sorry, I can't think of the word at the moment. What's the design?
The responsive
term?
design.
Responsive design, yeah.
And
I would think that if they're short, that the release notes are short, that they should adapt quite well to a mobile. But having said that, I have not tested that, so I might go do that.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Yeah, how do you educate developers on this format? Like, I know I'll probably let you answer this. You've told me the context behind this whole presentation, but how do you educate developers on this format?
I ran this session with the developers to start with, like this is where it came from, our in-house training. I also have a cheat sheet that I put together that sits in our intranet or in Confluence that I often just put a reminder in the developers Slack channel to say, release time's coming, remember to look at this cheat sheet when you're doing your release notes. And I haven't run this session with them for a while, but need to do it again. So internal training really. And I also try and make it very, let people know that I'm around if they have any questions or want a hand. I will, I can write it for them if they want to sit and have a chat. So I try and offer as much help as I can and guide and learn and, teach them at the same time. So, yeah, the word that people sort of know me as the company word person, but that works because we're only got 100-something people in the office in Melbourne. Larger companies, that probably wouldn't work so well, but then maybe larger companies of people know that there's a tech writing department or something they could always ask. But, sometimes engineers, they just don't really care. They just chuck it in and they wouldn't even think to ask anybody. I fixed this thing, I updated the database and it works now. Like, okay. And so, yeah, bit of it. I think it needs to be the writers are pushing out our knowledge to others.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think Sangeeta just said the specific tools on your previous comment about responsive design helps for different devices. So something like Madcap is a good one where you can write different contexts for different devices, and it will automatically format it depending on where are consumers actually using the release notes. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, just a little insight to our company, we don't use Madcap anymore, which is so sad. We have all our documentation in Markdown now.
Yeah.
Don't even, that's as much as I'm prepared to talk about. So, yeah. But if you have those tools available, by all means, make the most of them. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of sort of authoring environments have now become more aligned with developer tools just to make it easy. But yeah, I work with Markdown as well. So yeah. I think that's pretty much it, in terms of questions. So thank you for a great session. I know there's a lot of sort of positive comments about people, really enjoying this. Yes, the presentation's recorded, and the video will be available online. I will try and put it up on YouTube as soon as I can. And I'll share the link with the whole group today. So if anyone's got any other sort of burning questions, feel free to jump off the mute. And
I'm on LinkedIn, and you can put my email address somewhere if you want, Swapnil. If anyone wants to ever be in touch, please do. More than happy to have a chat about release notes or anything tech writing for that matter. So
that's excellent.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So yeah, thanks everyone. And thank you for tuning in. And thank you, Sonja, again for your presentation. It's been really useful. And I'll share the video link shortly. So I'm going to stop recording.